On today's episode of the Jon Campea Show podcast, Tom Cruise has up and moved his signs over to Warner Brothers now. Also, with Steven Yeun out as Sentry in Thunderbolts and the MCU, who could we see playing that role, or do we even see that role at all? Speaking of which, we've got a God of War series coming to Amazon. Who are the favorites to play Kratos? We're going to go over Coming Soon's article about that and kind of evaluate what we think how good we think their picks are. Also, there is reportedly a Last of Us prequel with Nick Offerman's character being discussed over at the studio. Bob Odenkirk's Nobody 2 is still officially happening, according to one of the key cast members. And a Mandalorian and Grogu feature film is coming and starts shooting this year, being directed by none other than Jon Favreau, not Dave Filoni. We're going to talk about that and a whole bunch more. The Jon Campea Show podcast starts right now. Well, hey, greetings and salutations, you motorboating sons of bitches. Thank you so much for joining us here today on the Jon Campea Show podcast. A little shout out to Jonathan bringing up Wedding Crashers on that one. For a glorious show here on this Tuesday that we are so glad you decided to join us for. I am, of course, your host, Jon Campea, and it is an awesome honor and privilege, as it is every day, to have you, our international friends, gather around as we talk about our favorite things in the world, movies and movie news, TV and streaming and all sorts of good stuff. Not just giving you our opinions, but hopefully giving you some information and context so you guys can form your own well-informed opinions, whether they're the same or different than ours. Joining me today, we got Ray Ora.
Hey.
Jonathan Voico's here.
Hello.
Chris Carr's in the house.
These comments about motorboating children.
I
see you in here.
She was laughing beforehand. You guys are here. Thank you so much for joining us here today. And here's how today's show is going to go. We're going to start off by going over those topics I listed off. And then the last part of the show, we're going to take your live comments and questions. First of all, we've already asked our beloved YouTube channel members to start sending us some questions. But also, if you guys are watching live, you guys can use the super chat feature in the live chat to send in some questions, and we'll get to those at or near the end of the show. All right, guys. With that down, let's get things going with this. You know, I woke up this morning in a world where Tom Cruise was still primarily, not exclusively, but primarily set up shop over at Paramount. You know, and listen, I love Paramount. I think Paramount's done some really good things in the last couple of years. I think they have, but everybody in the movie industry knows that Paramount's had some troubles. There's been a lot of stories about them maybe either being sold off or breaking up into pieces or whatever. What will or will not happen, we'll have to wait and see. But undisputably, the crown jewel over at Paramount is their relationship with Tom Cruise. You know, making one of the biggest box office hits in the last number of years with Top Gun and other projects. Well, we woke up in a world where Tom Cruise was living over at Paramount, but not anymore. This comes to us from the folks over at the Hollywood Reporter, who write the following. Tom Cruise is setting up shop on the Warner Brothers lot in a new strategic partnership that Warner Brothers Discovery chief David Zaslav helped to shepherd. Cruise will team with the movie studio chiefs Michael DeLuca and Pamela Abdy in jointly developing and producing original and franchise theatrical films starring the world-famous actor. Cruise and his production company will have offices on the Warner Brothers lot in Burbank. Now, a couple of things that need to be pointed out here to be clear. Hollywood is not like the NFL, where if you're McCaffrey, you sign on with the San Francisco 49ers, you can only play for the San Francisco 49ers while you're in a contract like that. It's not like that in Hollywood. Unless you're an employee of the studio, which actors and directors and producers are not. So what's happening here is that Tom Cruise will still be able to make movies with other studios under certain circumstances and at certain times. But his home base is going to be Warner Brothers. He's going to set up shop there. They're probably going to have some kind of a first look deal, not a traditional first look deal, but some kind of a first look deal where they will build and develop movies and projects and franchises and things like that together. Now, for example, though, you're still going to see him do a Paramount film with the next Mission Impossible. So it's not exclusive. It's like an open dating relationship. You can see other people if you want, but his primary girlfriend is going to be Warner Brothers Discovery. That's his new main squeeze. David Zaslav and Tom Cruise apparently like this now. And
Just swinging axes.
What's that?
Just swinging axes. Just two dudes swinging axes.
Just two dudes swinging their axes.
Just joyously going around swinging
Popping
the
their
axes.
in like a fishbowl, seeing what happens.
Yeah, maybe something crazy could happen. But the question then becomes, what brings this about? It could be several different things. Understandably, I think a lot of people's first reaction is going to be, this is Tom Cruise abandoning ship on Paramount, right? You see that narrative out there a lot. That Tom Cruise and others see the writing on the wall at Paramount, writing there may or may not be there, and has decided to jump ship. And David Zaslav was there with the best offer and said, hey, come on over to Warner Bros. Maybe. That could be it. There are a couple of other options, though. Number one, David Zaslav and Warner Brothers may have just gone over and backed up a dump truck full of Spanish gold and said, look, Tom, we want you at Warner Brothers. We will guarantee you X amount of budget per project. We will guarantee you that we put up this much money and resources in marketing any of your films. We guarantee you, because, Tom Cruise is big on theatrical. We guarantee you that when we make one of your movies, we will keep it in theaters for 3 months or give it a theatrical window of 3 months instead of 2 or 1.5, whatever. Look, there's a lot of different possibilities here. Some people have even started to speculate, well, maybe this is a precursor, if you will, to Warner Brothers taking over Paramount. And David Zaslav just saying to Tom Cruise, listen, we're going to be taking over Paramount at some point, so you might as well just sign the new deal with us just to get things going. I mean, again, which one of those three are the actual truth? Nobody knows for sure except David Zaslav, Tom Cruise, and the folks over at Paramount. But we do know that Cruise is about to set up shop over Warner Brothers, and this is kind of a major move. It's very reminiscent, Chris, of when Christopher Nolan decided to set up shop over at Universal.
Yeah.
Anyway, you heard about this news. Surprised, not surprised? What do you think is behind it? What do you think?
No, I wasn't surprised at all. My first thought was, we were talking last week about who could potentially buy Paramount. Mm-hmm. And this kind of lines up with what we were talking about of Zaslav making the rounds here, trying to get that one added to his kind of infinity gauntlet of IP and other things that he's been collecting. Because one of the things we keep talking about here too is we've seen Zaslav destroy a lot and disperse, right? We've seen shows cut, we've seen IP removed, we've seen things sold off to other people. And we're now entering, hopefully, the phase of Zaslav, really building Warner Brothers up into something really excellent, especially after we've got all that kind of momentum from Barbie and the studio doing quite well, right? It's a little bit of a down year for Disney. Warner Brothers is doing quite well. This is a good time for them to start accumulating things and doing original content. And that's one of the things that is great to see Tom Cruise gravitating towards, too. He's so intrinsically tied to iconic IP. Right? Top Gun to the Mission Impossible franchise and everything. We tried to have the Monsterverse. We tried.
Tried to have this Reacher franchise.
We tried to have a Jack Reacher franchise. But it'd be really great to see him do something completely new and different, because when he has gone off the beaten path, that's when we've gotten some really interesting and exciting roles from Cruise. I think we often forget that he is a fabulous actor.
Yeah.
He is a very, very gifted action star,
He's
right?
An Oscar-nominated
He's
actor
an Oscar-nominated
actor.
He's phenomenal. So if he can do something really cool, really original, and then WB can mine the shit out of it, why not? Why wouldn't you want him added to your roster? But I think it is because we're going to kind of see that sale come to fruition.
It's also, I think, look, I'm one of the lone voices in the wilderness that has said, hey, you know what? It's unpopular moves. David Zaslav's doing the things he needs to do to ensure Warner Brothers' long-term health. But I think this is a very important kind of PR win for him in a landscape that he's not had a lot of PR wins. I personally think he's done a lot of the right things, but he's also either, number one, sometimes in doing those right things, he hasn't presented it the best way. And I think it's fair to say, even as somebody who appreciates the way he's navigated with this company, he needs a PR win. I think being able to go out and say, I just landed Tom Cruise. I think that's a pretty important thing for them to do. Now, one could make the argument, if I want to bring this into a sports analogy.
Oh, no.
No.
It's like, okay, great. You signed Tom Cruise. Great. But you didn't sign Tom Cruise at 41 years old. You signed Tom Cruise in his 60s. how many more big franchises does he have left? And don't get me wrong, I'm not saying he doesn't. I'm just saying you could bring up that argument and say, okay, you landed Tom Cruise, but you landed Tom Cruise on the back part of his career at this point. How many more of these mega franchises does he have left in him? I don't know. Well, we'll have that isn't Mission Impossible, which doesn't go over to Warner Brothers.
Yeah.
Unless, of course, Warner Brothers buys Paramount. But when he makes if he makes any more Mission Impossible movies, he's got to do them with Paramount.
It's going to be Mission Implausible.
Mission Implausible. So we'll kind of see. Still a very, very big move, very interesting move. We'll see how this kind of works out. All right. That down, guys. Let's move on to this. You know, over the Christmas break and while I was out, a little piece of news came out that Steven Yeun has walked away from the role of Sentry in the Thunderbolts and isn't going to be in the Thunderbolts anymore. Now, the reason given makes a lot of sense. Look, we knew that with the writers and the actor strikes, a lot of schedules were going to get thrown in upheaval and all that kind of stuff. And Steven Yeun just basically said, look, they started shooting that thing in May. Then everything went all haywire. His schedule no longer lines up with it. He had to walk away. But he says he still wants to be in the MCU. He explicitly came out and said, I still want to be in the MCU, but it can't be in this role. So that brings up an interesting question that a lot of online sites like this one, like Screen Rant, asking the question, well, now who can replace Steven Yeun? Before we get into their picks, and I want to do a little bit of, I want to go through a couple of these articles here today and kind of analyze what their picks are. I think the first possibility we have to talk about, though, is it possible that instead of recasting Steven Yeun as Sentry, they simply just don't have Sentry in the movie anymore? I mean, we heard that not reworking it to the same degree that Captain America 4 is being reworked, because there's some extensive reworking being done on that one. But we've heard a little bit of reworking is being done on Thunderbolts. They had the time, but could it be that they decided that they don't want to bother having him in there? And this all is really the topic of today's Mint Mobile hotline question of the day. Listen, guys, if you've got a topic or question for the show and you'd like to hear your voice on our show, go ahead and call our Mint Mobile hotline anytime 24/7 at 951-268-4259. And today's specifically about Steven Yeun and Sentry. Check it out.
Hey, John and crew. This is Chris from Palmdale, California. So last week it was announced and confirmed by actor Steven Yeun that he would be dropping out of the Thunderbolts movie. Now, considering the role he was playing as a Sentry, we know Marvel before him, they courted Ryan Gosling to play the role. We know actor Ryan Hurst from Sons of Anarchy fame had expressed interest at one point in playing the Sentry. But who do you think Marvel will go to now to fill that role as the hero with the power of a million exploding suns? Thanks, guys, and bring on the filthy.
All right, thanks a lot for calling that in, man. And yeah, so first of all, the thing I want to address is it possible that they don't use Sentry? Now, I've already saw somebody in the live chat saying, why would they take out a character just because an actor had to back out? They shouldn't. But I would still propose there's still one big glaring thing to me. How does a Sentry fit in with the Thunderbolts? And I wonder if, because listen, you're right, Sentry is basically Marvel's version. They say this about a lot of characters, but it really is Sentry. Sentry is Marvel's version of Superman. Now, again, there are several characters that they say that about, but really this is the guy. This is the OP guy. When they did World War Hulk, and it had to come down to one person standing against Hulk who just wiped out all of Earth's heroes, the only character they had at their disposal to do that with was Sentry. And Hulk and Sentry battled it out basically to a draw, right? That's the guy. And I've always wondered, as fascinated as I've been to see Sentry pop up in the MCU, I've always wondered, how does this fit in with the Thunderbolts? I mean, listen, I love Bucky. What the flying fuck is Bucky gonna do against Sentry? I love
a firm handshake.
A firm handshake.
Hey, buddy.
I love Yelena, but I'm sorry, no amount of backflips is gonna do anything to Sentry. I love David Harbour's character. What do they call him again? The Red Guardian?
Red Guardian.
Yeah.
I love David Harbour's Red Guardian. He was absolutely 1,000% the best part of that Black Widow movie. Yelena was great in it too, but I mean, I love that character. But I'm sorry, what is Ghost or Walmart Captain America or any like? There's literally nothing there. What do you got, Ray?
When your backs are against the wall and you need to defeat a Red Hulk, you go to the raft and you break Sentry out of the raft where he's been parked up this whole time.
But here's the problem: we've already found out Red Hulk's gonna be in Captain America 4. That comes out before Thunderbolts.
Before, yeah.
So I mean, I've always thought about that. So I just want to propose. I just want to put it out there. Nobody told me this. This is not insider information. This is just me as a fan speculating. I want to propose that maybe Marvel thought better and said, you know what, let's just pull the Sentry angle out of this. We got all these characters, these great characters, Yelena, Red Guardian, Bucky, Ghost. We got all these great characters. Let's thin it out a little bit. We don't necessarily need a Sentry here. I'm not saying they're going to do that. I'm just saying maybe that's a possibility. Well, this article here wanted to throw out 10 possible names of replacing Sentry. So I thought we would go through these. One is Alexander Skarsgård. I like the pick. Ever since I saw him in The Northman. Actually, you know what? A lot of people crap on the movie, but he showed me something in that Tarzan film he did with Margot Robbie. It's like, this dude's a legit action star. And then if you haven't seen him in Northman, whoa. So he could, and most importantly, he is a world-class actor. So I like their pick. Andrew Koji, I love this guy. Even in that horrible Snake Eyes movie. He was awesome. And now that Warrior's been canceled, he's got some free time on his dance card. I'd be all for Andrew Koji playing that role. Although I'd love to see him in the MCU in a kind of any route. Boyd Holbrook.
That's my pick.
I love this
That's
one.
my pick.
I really like this pick too. Whether you're talking about Narcos, I thought he was great in Logan.
Yep. That's the dude right there.
He's just solid. He's got a presence on screen. He'd be really not my number one pick, but I like this one. I never know how to pronounce Nikolaj Coster Waldo's.
Mm-hmm.
Waldo.
Where's
yeah.
Waldo?
Yep.
Of course, from Game of
He's in
Thrones.
Westeros.
You know, the only thing I remember seeing him in since Game of Thrones was that rom-com where he was the boyfriend who had the supermodel was the star of it, where he had the 3 girlfriends
Oh yeah.
all at the same time.
Mm-hmm.
That's the only movie I think I remember seeing him in
He
since.
did a series with Jennifer Garner for Apple TV called The Last Thing He Ever Told Me.
Yeah, that's right.
I forgot he was in that.
Yeah.
Well, because he's not in most of it
Because
because
he's
gone.
It's the last thing.
It's the last thing he ever told her.
Last he told me. All right, next up is just, I don't know if he's good for Sentry, but you put Ope in anything. I'd love to see him in the MCU, Ryan Hurst. Again, he was my favorite character on one of my favorite shows, Ope on Sons of Anarchy. I never saw the other show he's well known for that's going on. I can't remember the name of it because I never
He
saw
did a
it.
stint on Walking Dead. I know that.
Oh, did he?
Yeah.
So yeah, I would love to see him in the MCU. I don't know if Sentry's the right role for him. There's some fan art of him in the role of Sentry. Next up, Keanu Reeves. I don't see it. I don't see Keanu Reeves. Although, if you're remembering the alter ego of Sentry, who has some, let's say, some substance issues, I could maybe see Keanu pulling that off pretty well. But I don't know. I'd like to see Keanu Reeves as something else. Going back to Sons of Anarchy, I love the idea of Charlie Hunnam playing Sentry. I like him a lot. Despite the fact that he was just in that terrible Rebel Moon movie, but I like him a lot. I think he'd be really good in that. Anthony Starr, nah.
That's too on the nose.
Yeah.
It's just way too much on the nose. So I'll put, and I love Anthony Starr. A big popular one going around is Ryan Gosling.
But that raises the budget, or that cuts into the budget.
It does raise the budget. He is super hot right now, especially coming off of Barbie. His Fall Guy movie isn't going to make $1 billion or anything, but that looks really fun. So I would, and more importantly, an Oscar caliber actor. I could see it, but I don't think that'll be it. And again,
It's a little on the nose, but okay.
so many people saying Henry Cavill. way too much on the nose. It's, I love Henry. Obviously, everybody knows that he's my boy, but no way should it be Henry Cavill. So I don't know. So a couple of those I quite like. You know, I like the, I love the Andrew Koji one. I like, Skarsgård's a good one.
Yeah, I like Skarsgård too. But
The Charlie Hunnam is great.
no Kinnaman though.
I don't know if Charlie Hunnam is really into the superhero thing though, because he turned down Green Arrow, saying, you know, green's not really my color, and I don't think spandex is my material.
Well,
And that could have to do specifically with just playing Green Arrow, but it did seem a little kind of like a jab at the superhero genre in general, which is interesting given, you know, Pacific Rim and Rebel Moon.
yeah, all that the stuff. So any of these names stand out to you, Chris, that you like a lot?
I really like Andrew Koji for it, and I really, really like Boyd for it.
Yeah,
I
Boyd.
think that one is so smart
Yeah,
and
Boyd
so fun.
Holbrook's. Yeah.
He's terrifying as the Corinthian in
Oh, yeah.
in Sandman. And one of the things I loved about Stephen Yeun, right, was he was going to be able to play the very troubled, drug-addicted version of Sentry. He was going to play the heroic Sentry. And then I really was confident in his ability to play the Void. I think Boyd Holbrook
As the
could play
Void?
the shit out of the Void. And he could do all those other things, too. He's a world-class actor. But I think this would be a really, really amazing role for him in particular.
Yeah. It's unfortunate, too, the timing of it, because right after he steps out of the role, he wins his Golden Globe, and he's
Yeah.
going to win other awards
Absolutely.
this coming award season, too. What about you, Ray? You got anybody that you like? I mean, Joel Kinnaman was one
Yeah,
that,
Joel Kinnaman is like my my dream pick or whatever, or Alexander Skarsgård. But out of that whole list, I'm down with Boyd Holbrook. I think he's the one right there. Ryan Gosling, I think from what I've seen him in, his face is just like, just makes me not makes me laugh, but like I think of all the other roles he's played. I mean, I think Boyd Holbrook is my pick in that whole litter right there.
yeah, but I think there are a lot of good names on there. And you know what? The reality is probably the best person to play the role isn't even on that list.
Yeah.
Yeah,
you
because they
listed
picked
them.
Stephen Yeun. Like, I mean, that was their pick. I mean, it could be anybody, really. It could be Terry Crews.
It could be Terry Crews. Why
what?
not?
I don't care. You just put him on the screen.
He's the real Sentry. All right. Guys, with
Cat
that
Williams.
down, let's move on to this, shall we? But let's stick on the theme of kind of going over an outlet's article on something here and kind of dissecting their picks a bit. One of the more exciting projects in the world of video game stuff anyway, now that Last of Us is kicking all kinds of ass, you know, Super Mario Brothers did so well. We've got, I keep forgetting the name of it, Fallout. We got Fallout coming that's looking really good.
Yeah.
Well, one that's getting a lot of people excited is God of War. This is one that's got people stoked, and of course, it's going to be coming to Amazon TV. But the question is, and one of my favorite outlets coming soon has put this article together, asking, you know, who could play Kratos? I mean, more important than any of the dwarves, more important than the kid, Loki, more important than anything. I mean, this show is going to live and die by how it casts Kratos. And kind of like the Sentry thing, I think this commercial, by the way, is so good. If you haven't seen this commercial with Ben Stiller and John Travolta, and I forget who the third one is.
LeBron James.
LeBron James. Oh my God. This with their actual real life kids. This is gold. You got to go look it up on YouTube if you haven't seen this trailer.
She's like,
Anyway.
Dad, you're acting thirsty. Oh, no, I hydrated.
No, yeah, I'm hydrated. So the question becomes, who could this be? Because it's going to be of such paramount importance. And like the Sentry, it very well could end up being somebody that no one's ever heard of. And I'm okay with that too. But coming soon, put together a list that they pulled together of a few things. And I thought we could take a look at these. The list they've got here is Dave Bautista, Triple H,
Yes.
Jason Momoa, Christopher Judge
Yeah.
from Stargate Atlantis, who actually does the voice of Kratos in the games, Dwayne Johnson, Yahya Abdul-Mateen, and again, everybody wants Alexander Skarsgård. That's the name of a movie right there. Everybody wants Alexander Skarsgård. So here's what's interesting. A lot of these names are older names. And sometimes when, pardon me, a superhero movie comes up or something like that, some of these names will be brought up, and then the first criticism will come in. It's like, they might be a little bit old to play the role. The great thing about this role is I think it actually requires somebody older. I think it requires somebody in the age range of a Paul Levesque, aka Triple H, of a Dave Bautista, of a Dwayne Johnson. And that actually ages them in. And I would oddly enough say one of the names on this list, Alexander Skarsgård, who's great, I think he's too young. I'm not going to buy the old, grizzled, world-weary warrior thing coming from Skarsgård. He's just too young.
He could be a villain in it.
Absolutely.
Some mischievous god.
Yeah, I like that. I can see him in any other role he wanted to. So, and I'm going to say the unpopular thing. Everybody who ever plays games, they always think the person who should play it in real life is whoever did the voice of it in the game. And that's just often not true. I love Chris Judge's voice. I do. I don't think Chris Judge is the right guy to play the role. I would, oddly enough, and I can't believe I'm going to say this, I'm going to say Triple H. And I'll tell you why. Tell you why. Hear me out. I think Triple H is the worst actor on this list. All right. And I say this as a fan. He's one of my all-time favorite wrestlers, Triple H. See if you can find one of his, but he is.
Well, no, I mean, here, like,
yoked.
literally, okay, there's
I got you.
Kratos.
Like,
Boom.
yeah.
I mean, that's him.
I mean, yeah. I mean, he's as he's
got the
physically
beard.
as big as Kratos. He's got the look of, but here's why. Now, you could be saying and screaming at your screen right now, understandably, saying, John, you're always saying talent is the first thing. And you just said he's probably the worst actor on this list. He has done some feature films. He's never been very good. So why do I think he could do Kratos? Kratos don't talk much. He simply doesn't talk much. You bring in a director who knows how to get the best and exactly specifically what they need. Remember, when Dave Bautista did the first Guardians of the Galaxy movie, his talent, oh my God, that looks good. His talent level was not where it is today. But he was in the hands of a director in James Gunn who knew exactly how to accentuate that actor's strengths and hide their weaknesses. And a character like Kratos, who has such limited dialogue, a lot of grunting, a lot of boy, a lot of stuff like that. You surround him with some really good talent to carry the heavier loads of the performances. You get him to physically emote properly. And one of the things as a wrestler, they know how to physically emote. I'll say that. Now, of course, though, I would be perfectly good if they went with a Jason Momoa or Dave Bautista or any of those other names on there. But in this one instance, I think that Triple H might not be a bad pick. I don't know, Chris, what do you think about this and the names that they listed? Do any of the names that they listed stand out to you?
Not Triple H.
Not Triple H.
Not Triple
Tell you
H
that
for me.
much.
I do really like Christopher Judge for this because he also does have the physicality for this role. He is a big, imposing guy who
Yeah.
has an on-camera career as well as a strong voiceover background. And I think that voice is so iconic. If we were to go for another great voice actor, though, who has a tremendous on-screen presence, J.K. Simmons. He got swole before.
Ooh,
Yeah, he
I
is
can
pretty
almost see
big.
him more as an Odin, though.
He could
than-
do Odin very, very
Yeah.
well. And then if we wanted to play somebody, if we did want to bring in someone younger, and I know he's the same age as Skarsgård, but Ryan Hurst, I think, is a great idea for this character.
You know, it's funny, though. Ryan Hurst is in the game franchise because he's Thor
Yep.
in the franchise, too.
But I think he'd do a really good job here. He's grown epic beards in the past. It would be great. And obviously, that's not the end-all, be-all of this. Hair, makeup, those things, or lack of hair, I should say, will come into play here. As long as you get a great actor, I think that's really what matters here. I just don't know if Triple H would be my pick. But then again, so many wrestlers have done really, really well in film. Triple H hasn't been one of them so far.
No, he is
But I
not.
would love for him to change my mind. I just don't know if I want him to change my mind with this huge property on his shoulders.
See, and I could change my mind. Like, if they showed me a script and they say gave Kratos a lot more dialogue, then I'll be the first person to then say, you know what? I love Triple H, but this is not the role for him. But if it's more limited and you put him in the hands of the right director, maybe. There are probably 25 other better picks, though. I admit that. There probably are. But I would just say if there's any one role that I think Triple H could play, this is it. Because if it's not this role, it's nobody. It's no role out there can Triple H play. This might be it or nothing. All right. Guys, with that down, we still got to talk about a bunch of things, including they're talking about maybe doing a Last of Us prequel series with the Nick Offerman character. Also, that Bob Odenkirk Nobody movie, which was so great. Yeah, they're still absolutely 100% moving ahead and doing a sequel of it. And news came out this morning, shocking everybody, that Mandalorian, a feature film, is shooting this year before that Rey movie, and Jon Favreau himself is going to be directing it. We're going to talk about that and a few things more, but before we do, we're going to take a quick second here and thank one of the sponsors of today's episode, our friends at MasterClass. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's episode, MasterClass. Everyone, it's a new year, so picture that thing that you've always wanted to learn. Now, picture learning it from a person who's literally one of the best in the world at it, and that's what you get with MasterClass. This year, learn from the best to become your best with MasterClass. Don't just talk about improving, MasterClass helps you actually do it. Because MasterClass offers over 180 world-class instructors, so whether you want to master negotiation with Chris Voss, like I did, think like a boss with Martha Stewart, or learn the art of storytelling from the man himself, Neil Gaiman, MasterClass has you covered. Because with MasterClass, you get unlimited access to intimate one-on-one classes with the world's best. At MasterClass, there are over 200 classes to pick from, with new classes being added every month. And if you're a viewer of the Jon Campea Show, you probably love movie making, storytelling, television. So you would be totally interested in things like screenwriting from Aaron Sorkin, learn developing original TV series from Stranger Things' The Duffer Brothers, or maybe you like the music side of movies, well, you can learn film scoring from Hans Zimmer. And right now, our listeners will get an additional 15% off an annual membership at masterclass.com/Campea. Get 15% off right now at masterclass.com/Campea. masterclass.com/Campea. And thank you to our friends at MasterClass for sponsoring today's episode of the Jon Campea Show podcast. All right, guys, with that down, let's go on to this, shall we? Nick Offerman, just coming off his Emmy win for Best Guest Appearance in a motion or in a television series drama, obviously for his episode 3 role that everybody in the world talked about of The Last of Us. It's one of those things. I remember when everybody saw that episode, that was it. Just give him the Emmy right now. Just, there's no point in waiting. Just give it to him. Well, this weekend, the Emmys gave him that well-deserved Emmy Award as one of the most talked about single episodes of television of the last couple of years. Well, success tends to breed ideas. Sometimes good ideas, sometimes not so good ideas. But one of the ideas that's been touted around is that, hey, clearly people love this character. Maybe we should do a prequel series. And apparently they are talking about it. This comes to us from Deadline. They write the following. Nick Offerman told Deadline that the team is, quote unquote, not short on ideas for a prequel series about the lives of Bill and Frank before they met, fell in love, and died together. I would have to ask somebody with a higher pay grade than myself, he said. It certainly has been pitched. I think we pitched a whole miniseries of a prequel of their lives before they met each other. It could be a musical. We're not short on ideas. We'll just see what Craig Mazin and Neil Druckmann come up with. And that comes to us, of course, from Nick Offerman, who, again, now has a fresh, brand new Emmy sitting on, and for those of you who may not know, played maybe arguably the greatest character in television history on Parks and Rec. So I'm a little bit torn on this. I'll be honest with you. I loved this character. I loved this story. It humanized that entire series. Like episode 3, really near the beginning of the show, and it gave such an epic, humanizing, emotional basis of humanity to what could have easily just evolved into another rah, rah, shoot the zombies in the head, rah, rah, kind of show. This was the episode that epitomized the brilliance of the show overall. Still totally carried by Pedro Pascal and whatnot, but I mean, this was the episode that really told you this is a different kind of show and one of the most special things I think we've ever seen on TV. And I'm always down for seeing more Nick Offerman, whether it's in a character like this, whether it's Ron Swanson, whatever he wants to do. I'm all great. But man, But that being said, I'm also not big on prequel stuff. We know where everything's going. We know the story of Bill and Frank now. And while I think, and I don't mean to be disingenuous, because I'm not going to lie to you, if they made this show, I will definitely watch it. But should they make it? And I kind of feel that it might lose some of that emotional potency, because we know not just how their story ends, but in what such emotional crescendo their story ends. And to go back and tell other stories of them either after they met or prior to them meeting, I think we'll just have lost that entire sense of wonder. Like, as we saw their relationship developing in that third episode, wondering, how is this relationship going to evolve? What will they be like? What will they come to mean to each other? And ultimately, how does their story end? None of that can be present anymore. And so, again, not to be disingenuous, if they made it, I would watch it. But I don't think they should make this. I think they should just move on from this. Anyway, Chris, I know you agree that this was one of the most beautiful episodes of television I've ever seen.
Yeah.
They're pitching the idea of doing some prequel content. Do you like it? Do you not like it? How do you see it?
I hate it. I don't like it at all. This, for me, is a perfect episode of television. It is a perfect episode of television, in my humble opinion. The relationship pace that they are able to achieve in this episode is so phenomenal. You care about them so much. You follow through with where they are at in their relationship. You understand why these two people would want to die together. You understand that this episode is here to show us that humanity is worth fighting for, because people can fall in love every single day, no matter the circumstances. I don't want them to touch this. No, like you, I would tune in if it happened just to see it, but I'd have a very John Mulaney, this ought to be good kind of attitude about it. I just feel like, because we know how they met, because we saw some of the issues and hurdles they already had to overcome, and because we see ultimately what happens to them, I don't feel like you can mine something particularly, I don't know, not interesting. Interesting's not the right word, because it still would be interesting. Meaningful, yeah. I think that's the issue here, is this was such a wonderfully built episode. I don't think it needs anything else. One of the best things that happens in film is the editing process, right? You need to know when to edit. Same thing with when you're making a recipe, right? You need to know when you stop putting in ingredients. This is a perfect souffle. Nobody touch it.
All right, guys, question is for you. What do you think? Would you be interested in them doing more episodes, a mini series or an anthology series, whatever, just of Bill and Frank? Or do you think, you know what? It was so good that it would take away anything you do in anything new anyway. It would lose some part of its heart or soul. I don't know. How do you guys feel about it? Jump on down in the comments and let us know down below. All right, guys. With that down, let's move on to this, shall we? The date is 2021, early 2021. I think it was in February or March of 2021. Still kind of just crawling out of the pandemic stuff, with the theaters getting going again and stuff like that. And along came this little movie with Bob Odenkirk called Nobody. That, quite frankly, looked like a John Wick ripoff, because first of all, it was made by some of the same people who made John Wick. But you had a really interesting cast of people in there. You had Connie Nielsen in there, obviously Bob Odenkirk. You had Christopher Lloyd in there. You had RZA in there. And the trailers look pretty badass. Off to the movie theaters, I went to go see it and was amazed by how much fun this movie was. And a lot of people who've seen it, not that many people saw it, but a lot of the people who saw it thought, man, how great would it be to do a John Wick and Nobody crossover? I'm still down for that. Completely am. The reality, though, is, Ray, if you can look up how much Nobody made at the box office, but it didn't make a lot of money, right? Some of that had to do when it released and all that kind of stuff, for sure, but it didn't make a ton of money. So there was like very valid questions. So we got that, Ray?
Yeah, 57.5.
57 million worldwide. So not only would it be hard to make a case that it should have a crossover with John Wick when everybody had seen John Wick and next to nobody saw nobody, but could that movie even get a sequel? Well, a couple of years ago, the director of the film kind of dropped some hint that, hey, nothing's been greenlit, but we are hoping to develop a sequel. Well, now one of the stars of the movie, Connie Nielsen herself, has come out and made it known that, yeah, we're making it. This comes to us from Coming Soon, who said the following. Connie Nielsen says that a sequel to the Bob Odenkirk starring Nobody is still happening. Speaking with comicbook.com, Nielsen confirmed that Nobody 2 was still in the works at this time. Yeah, she said, we are doing it, but I can't tell you anything about it yet. And that again comes to us from Coming Soon. All right. There are times in Hollywood when a movie doesn't make any money, but there are still arguments to be made for taking another run at it. I think Nobody, coming out under the circumstances in which it came out, accompanied by the fact that a lot of people did discover the movie after its financial failure at the box office, and with the added thing of that, it's not an expensive project to make. I don't know what the production budget on the first Nobody was, but I can guarantee you can probably do a second one for probably about $30 or $40 million.
$16 million.
$16 million.
Well, it was profitable then.
Depending on how much they spent on marketing. But I mean, $16 million. So if you want to be generous, make the sequel for 25 or 30. And I think this is a property today with the audience that it built that could theoretically make $70 million, $80 million at the box office. So I think all those, even though the first one struggled, I think there's a good basis there to make that argument. It sounds like they're doing it, and I'm excited about it. I think this could be something that's really cool. Now, I don't know that they'll ever take that extra step of, say, doing a crossover with John Wick. I don't know if that would be in the cards or not. But would I be down for a Bob Odenkirk Nobody 2? You're damn right I would be. 100%. And guys, if you have not seen Nobody yet, I would highly recommend you set some time aside, sit down, have an adult beverage, get some food, and just enjoy, because it's a really fun little film. All right. With that down, guys, let's move on to this, shall we? The world of Star Wars is a freaking mess. It just is. I'm not talking about box office results or whatever, but I mean, they announce projects, they never get mentioned again, they fall off the wayside. It was 17 years ago that Taika Waititi said they were doing that movie. That never happened. Then we were going to get the Rogue One movie. That never happened. Then they announced. Then, for the longest time lately, they've told us, yep, the next movie going into production is this Rey movie. A move that, despite the fact that I love Daisy Ridley, and I even think there is a lot of potential with the Rey character, was a tremendous mistake, considering the divisiveness of this character, that your next movie is going to be about Rey. Really? That's how you're going to heal the fandom? Well, apparently somebody's listening, because that's out the window again. As news has come out this morning, it's official, and it's shooting this year. A Mandalorian and Grogu feature film, not directed by Dave Filoni, but rather by Jon Favreau, is coming. This comes to us from the Hollywood Reporter, who said the following. Grogu is heading to the big screen. The Mandalorian and Grogu, a new film to be directed by the Mandalorian creator Jon Favreau, is a go at Lucasfilm and is expected to film later this year. Favreau, Lucasfilm head Kathleen Kennedy, and Lucasfilm chief creative officer Dave Filoni will produce the feature, which the studio said will be the first Star Wars movie to go into production. That's what they said about the Rey movie too. Will be the first Star Wars movie to go into production since 2019 Star Wars: The Rise of Skywalker. There had been some speculation that the film starring Daisy Ridley would be the first out of the gate, but it appears that the project will take longer to hit hyperspace. All right. Number of things to talk about here. Number of points to touch on. Let's start with the first top headline. A Mandalorian and Grogu movie. I think this is a great idea for a couple of reasons. Number one, despite a weaker season 3, which I don't know, maybe you loved season 3. If you did, great. I thought it was a weaker one. I think a bunch of people thought it was a weaker one. But despite that, in a very fractured, divided Star Wars fandom, I don't know that there's any single thing out there that really got more people around it than Mandalorian did. For a brief period of time, when that first season of Mandalorian came out, all the fractures in the Star Wars fan family seemed to, for ever so briefly, healed. People were holding hands again and singing Kumbaya and loving Mandalorian. It was great. Now, granted, season 3, a little shaky, maybe really shaky. But I think overall, if you're talking about a Star Wars, a corner of the Star Wars universe that has more ability to bring the fandom together, as opposed to, say, a standalone Rey movie, I think that's the right move to do. Mandalorian's ratings started to suffer. Then again, all the Star Wars shows started to suffer with their ratings, including Ahsoka and whatever. But Mandalorian is still a title. The Mandalorian is still a name. And, pardon me. And that music. Bum, 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 bum. I mean, I just hear that music. My blood starts running. I love it. I think this is a great idea. Second reason why I think this is a great idea, Jon Favreau directing. Now, I know they said that they were going to try to be setting up, and I think this has been quietly shelved. They were going to be doing this Mando-verse movie with Mandalorian and Ahsoka and whoever the other characters were too. I think the reality of the ratings issues that they had with Ahsoka and stuff like that probably made them change plans a month or two ago and decide to maybe go in a different direction. And listen, let's be on the record. For all we know, they're still going to do that Mandoverse movie with the other characters too. Maybe they are. I have my doubts, but maybe it will. But Favreau himself pulling a Thanos and saying, fine, I'll do it myself, and just stepping up and he directing this thing, I think is the best possible scenario. Now, listen, I've gone on record and I still believe that Dave Filoni will be a fantastic live action director someday. I still believe that. I 100% stand by that. But I also think Ahsoka showed us he's not there yet. He needs a little more experience, a little more opportunity to cut his teeth, maybe stick to doing some stuff on Disney Plus for a little while longer. Get really entrenched in this new role that is much better suited for him as a creative person as opposed to a hands-on director of live action. Again, I still believe he will be a great live action director someday. He's got the perfect attitude for it. I love his outlook on it. He'll get there. He's not there yet. Jon Favreau is. Now, this, of course, brings up the elephant in the room, which was Mandalorian Season 3, which was not great. Because I'm sorry, I know a lot of people will point to maybe one of the worst Star Wars movements, besides Jar Jar stepping in shit and going, Piusa, is, Darth Vader going, no. But worse than all of them, Mando going over a deactivated droid and pulling a business card out of its pocket going, a droid bar. Maybe we should look for clues there and break open the case. It's one of the stupidest things I've ever seen in Star Wars. Absolutely nonsensical. So, yeah, they have to do, but you know what? I've always believed a movie format for Mandalorian would be far superior to the television format of Mandalorian. I think you could tell a killer 2-hour, all thriller, no filler, higher budget, intense action, get Jon Favreau in there directing it. I think this is a great move. I think this is the right thing to come out of the gate with. And I'm excited to see what transpires here. If, and unfortunately this is still Star Wars, so we have to ask this question, if it actually happens. Because if there's anything we learned the last couple of years, just because Lucasfilm says something is happening, it doesn't mean it's happening. Anyway, Chris, this news kind of came out of left field. Shocking, surprising a lot of people for different reasons. First of all, we thought the Rey movie was coming first. Yeah. We thought when there was a Mandalorian kind of movie, we thought Dave Filoni was going to be directing it. A lot of stuff in there. But how do you feel about this news?
Oh, I'm hyped about this. I love this so much because I'm a really big fan of The Mandalorian. And while season 3 wasn't great, I don't think it was as terrible as people made it out to be. And I do think it is one of the big uniters in Star Wars right now. This is movie news that my dad even actually texted me about. He was so excited. He wants to do a whole TED talk on the way and how it applies to the legal field. I'm hyped about this so much. And I like that it's a Mando Grogu movie. I was a little worried when we were talking about, the everyone coming together, team up, Star Wars does
Star
the
Wars
Avengers
movie.
Yeah, that felt overstuffed and it felt unearned too. I don't love everyone as much as I love these guys. I want them to have their little buddy cop show. And so I'm excited to see them hit the big screen, which is where Star Wars really belongs.
100%.
That's where it belongs and it's where I want to see it. I am worried content-wise because the elephant in the room for me has always been, why have we never heard about Grogu? Why have we never heard about this incredibly powerful Force user?
Well, that leads me to the end of this movie.
Yeah. And my heart will be broken if something bad happens to that sweet little baby.
Oh, he dies. He's got to die.
He can't.
He doesn't have to die in this movie.
He powers Starkiller Base.
They got him wired up.
Dare you?
It's a little heartbeat in the center of all that.
Man, I thought 2024 you were going to be filled with more hope. I was wrong.
I just know what happens to
Mustache,
Starkiller
bro.
Base. And I know how they powered it.
Man. I'm
Now-
gonna cry.
I can also hear a lot of people, and I see it in the live chat as well, saying, but wait a minute, but is it all going to be the volume? I don't think so. Not for a feat. Listen, the volume is a great tool. The problem, like any good tool, is when you start to over rely on that one tool, right? Now, in the first season of The Mandalorian, they used it for all the right ways, for all the right reasons, and the effects were great. It wasn't until Lucasfilm started to over rely on that volume. And listen, I'll be honest with you, I can point to a lot of scenes that, listen, a traditional green screen shot there would have been much better than the volume. A practical set here would have been much better than the volume. And some scenes in which the volume, perfect for this scene, perfect for this sequence. Yes. But I think if they're making a feature film and they have a feature film budget and they have a feature film timeline, I think what you'll see Jon Favreau do is use the volume where it will be the most effective and then use other storytelling tools at his disposal, whether it's practical sets, whether it's traditional sound stages, whether it's an old school green screen. It's weird calling green screen old school, but I think then he'll use those in those things. There won't be a need to hyper timeline streamline the production like you do with a television show and have to overuse the volume. So I don't think that's going to be an issue. Plus, don't forget, this is the same guy who made Iron Man.
Yeah. Guess who kicked off the Avengers?
Yeah.
The road
Who
to
started
Avengers.
the MCU?
Yeah, the road to the Avengers was Iron Man. Let's hope that the magic transfers over to this Mando movie. The thing with Iron Man didn't have 3 seasons of a show leading up to a movie. It was just Iron Man. Hey world, this is Iron Man.
Yep.
Those of you who don't know him, get to know him right now. So I don't know if that's going to hinder. We have to go back to how many people actually watch Mandalorian and how many people are going into this movie without knowing a thing, which is probably not a lot of people, but I don't know.
But I
We'll
mean,
see.
in terms of other things they tried to do, say with Ahsoka, where you had to have watched all the cartoon shows and whatever. Mandalorian was a Disney Plus thing right from the get-go, right? And became a global phenomenon there.
Right.
And I really don't think it would take much to get people caught up on who's this guy and who's the little Yoda dude.
So you still think that this movie should be an introduction just in case there's people who don't know? Or do you think they should go off?
Here's
how
a
do you
great
think-
example. The movie Serenity, based on the Firefly television show.
Right, good. Yep,
I saw Serenity before I ever saw a single
Me
episode
too.
of Firefly.
me too.
And their first 5 minutes of that movie, what Joss Whedon did there was perfection. I felt like I knew everything I needed to know about this crew, about this cast of characters. In the first 5 to 10 minutes, they completely had me up to speed. They never assumed I watched the show, and they got me right on board with it. And I think they can do the exact same thing with The Mandalorian. I think they can do an opening action sequence, like the tail end of a bounty hunt or something like that. And that within that 5 to 10 minute sequence, they basically run over every important detail that an audience member would need to know in order to go forward in this story. I think they did it with Serenity. I think this would be a great opportunity for them to do it here.
with Hawaiian shirt Grogu and Hawaiian shirt.
Hawaiian shirt
That's
at
how it's
family
gonna start.
picnics.
You're gonna leave. You're
But I
gonna be
mean-
like, "Argh."
But I mean, also it's different because Ahsoka, for example, I'm just using. I don't mean to pick on Ahsoka. I'm just using that as an example. Never a worldwide phenomenon. Mandalorian and Baby Yoda, worldwide phenomenon,
Yeah.
right? So I think there's a little something easier there. Then, do they bring in the various other characters like is up on screen right now? I don't know, but I just in general.
No, you make a good point though, because with that, like, there was so much Grogu merchandise and memes and even people who like don't really know what Star Wars is, they knew what Baby Yoda was,
Yeah.
so they're gonna be like the Baby Yoda movie.
I have one of those lawn ornaments in my apartment of him with a Santa hat on for Christmas.
And as much as you want to get sick of him, as soon as they put him on screen, I'm back.
Yep.
He got me in his hands again. No matter what, as much we get saturated with this Grogu stuff, put him on screen 1 second, and he got
Yeah,
me.
because you would think after 3 seasons, right?
Yeah.
People are going to get tired. I wonder if I'm going to start get tired of the baby Yoda.
No.
And then they put him on screen looking at Mandalorian, and he just does a head tilt.
Yeah,
And
But
then
they
they put him in a
gotta-
robot. They put him in a robot.
they got to work on his like running and jumping though, because it looks a little
Yes.
too like, I'm on strings. Look at me, I'm fake.
I do think, and this is going to be an unpopular thing to say, but sometimes the truth is unpopular. They are going to have to do a little more CGI.
Oh
with
yeah,
Grogu.
of course.
With
in-
those
in the
legs,
movies,
man, because
because
it just looks like a
you're
doll
right.
being dragged.
Like this whole argument that practical is always better. Wrong. Because some of those scenes you just mentioned,
Yeah.
Jonathan, like in Mandalorian, like, oh my God, that
especially
looked
on
bad.
IMAX.
Well, that
you're gonna
very
see all
last,
those.
Oh, yeah.
that very last scene of episode 3 when he goes into the bar at the end, and it's supposed to be like, oh, that's what's leading to this. He like does this weird lean forward run, and then he jumps up into the rafters, and it looks so fake.
was
It's like,
cute,
what
though.
was
He
this?
was so cute.
Oh, yeah,
cute, but a
absolutely
fake.
cute, but you can make it look better.
Yeah.
Right. Again, don't overuse it. Just use it when you need it. But yeah, they're gonna have to do a little bit more CGI, I think, with Baby Yoda here. Anyway, I love this. Now, then this raises some secondary questions. What does this mean for that Mando-verse movie that Dave Filoni was going to direct? I think it's done.
I think it's coming.
You think they're still going to do it?
I think with Favreau helming this first one to like maybe have like a little path, I could see them still going that way. It's just I don't think they trusted Dave Filoni enough to kick it off. I think.
Well, I think this is the Mandoverse movie, but
Well-
it's just part one of
Oh yeah.
that.
And Filoni also now is like Star Wars Kevin Feige, right? I mean, that's basically he's been given.
Except he doesn't have
ish.
the authority.
Yeah.
That's the thing. He's there to consult. Like Dave Filoni was very, very clear when he was describing his new role. He's not there to be able to tell anybody what they can and can't do. He's there to consult and be there right from the beginning stages of crafting these worlds, like something that I think he's going to really excel at.
Yeah.
But do they still trust him as a director after this is all up for interpretation, but the failure of Ahsoka? I'll call it that. It wasn't a very good series. The numbers dropped, insanely dropped as the series went on. And I just wonder if they might, if they and Dave Filoni might have just gone, you know what? I'm a creative visionary. The place that I'm going to be most effective is not sitting my ass on a set in a director's chair, but rather in a writer's room and in the head offices, like creating the vision for overall story. Or maybe they still do his standalone movie. I don't know at this point, but I think it's the right one to not have him do the first one.
Yeah. I don't know how many times I watched the behind the scenes, like the hour-long thing of Iron Man 1 on
Right.
the on the disc. The passion that Favreau put into that whole movie, I want to see that go to this Mando movie. Like I believe they got the right guy. I think if you're gonna do the first initial Mando movie, they got the right guy. I think.
And to have him and have Favreau, Kennedy, and Filoni all producing it together, I think they're setting themselves up for at least the chances for success. Whether it is a success or not, are we going to get Mandalorian season 1 and 2? Or are we going to get Mandalorian season 3? So we'll have to see. All right, guys. With that all down, let's move over and start taking your live thoughts and questions here, shall we? But before we do, we're going to take another second and thank a couple of sponsors of today's episode, our friends at Harry's and my mobile service provider, and they should be yours, Mint Mobile. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of today's video, Harry's. You know, guys, in order to start the Jon Campea Show, I had to leave my high-paying corporate job in order to set myself up to be happier and enjoy more personal success. Because sometimes to get what you want, you have to challenge the status quo and blaze your own trail. And that's exactly what the folks at Harry's did. You see, at Harry's, they saw customers getting ripped off by questionable products in the shaving industry and decided to do something better. Harry's decided to pave their own road by making beautifully designed razors for a fraction of the price of the other big brands. Exceptional products, honest prices. That's Harry's. I have fallen in love with Harry's, from their foaming shaving gel that feels just luxurious on the skin to their incredible razor that feels just as good in the hand as it does going over your skin. They've got rich, lathering, skin-softening body wash in scents like redwood, wildlands, and stone. You see, Harry's provides German-engineered blades made in their own factory that stay sharp longer. You can get a 5-blade razor, weighted handle, foaming shave gel, and a travel cover for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. Don't settle for the status quo. Blaze your own trail with Harry's. Get started with a $13 trial set for just $3 at harrys.com/Campea. That's harrys.com/Campea for a $3 trial set. Guys, we want to take a second to thank a sponsor of this video, Mint Mobile. On average, it takes about 30 days for a person to break their New Year's resolution. So if saving money was on your 2024 list, your odds aren't looking that great. Luckily, I have a 100% guaranteed way to save you money this year. Just switch to Mint Mobile. For a limited time, wireless plans from Mint Mobile are $15 a month when you purchase a 3-month plan. That's unlimited talk, text, and data for $15 a month. I've told you guys many times that after switching to Mint Mobile, I am spending less than a third on my cell bill than I used to with a major carrier. Say goodbye to your overpriced wireless plans, jaw-dropping monthly bills, and unexpected overages. All Mint plans come with unlimited talk and text plus high-speed data delivered on the nation's largest 5G network. And don't worry about having to change phones or numbers. Use your own phone with any Mint Mobile plan and bring your phone number along with all your existing contacts. So guys, to get this new customer offer and your new 3-month unlimited wireless plan for just $15 a month, go to mintmobile.com/Campea. That's mintmobile.com/Campea. Cut your wireless bills to $15 a month at mintmobile.com/Campea. Additional taxes, fees, and restrictions apply. See Mint Mobile for details. And thank you to our friends at Harry's and Mint Mobile for sponsoring today's episode. All right, guys, with that down, let's get over and start taking your live questions you guys have been sending into the super chat, shall we? Chris, what are we starting off with?
From Sanchez Guy 002. Hey, John, it's me from the first day of the new year. While I keep praying for you, what are your favorite Western films?
My favorite Westerns, my all-time favorite Western is, it's funny because I used to talk about it as a contemporary movie, but it's an old film now, but it's Unforgiven. Unforgiven is like a borderline perfect movie. It's kind of the model that I think Logan was made after, too, like in many ways. And a more recent one, although I still think it's over 15 years old, is the Christian Bale...
3:10 to Yuma?
Yeah, Russell Crowe, 3:10 to Yuma, which I think is another one of those rare examples of a remake that's better than the original. But yeah, those, I mean, of course you get your classic Clint Eastwood ones as well, but I really think Unforgiven is like the crown jewel, the peak of the genre field. You got a favorite Western of all time, Chris?
Tombstone and 3:10 to Yuma.
Oh, Tombstone's so good.
Yeah.
I think I like Appaloosa more than 310. They came around the same time.
Yeah, it was the ants of Western films, right?
All right, what's next?
Yeah, and double Western bacon cheeseburger.
Oh, yeah.
Double Western bacon cheeseburger, all-time favorite.
From Devin Lita. Greetings and salutations. Has anyone on here heard about Mike Klum's documentary on Dark Side Phil, DSP? He did a good job covering Boogie 2988.
Nope.
I do.
Don't really
know.
care about YouTube drama, to be honest
I
with
know
you.
about
But
it.
Oh, I didn't know what any of those words were.
Yeah, I was so confused.
Okay.
all right, what's next?
Devin Lita meant to say greetings. Oh, I said it for you, Devin. No worries. Don't even apologize about the typo.
Greetings.
My brain filled it in for you.
All right, what's next?
From Enrique, I must admit, Dana Carvey's The Master of Disguise is a big guilty pleasure of mine. I know it's not good, but I enjoy it.
Well,
You know, look, however bad that movie may be, and it's bad, I love Dana Carvey. But turtle, who doesn't grin
Am I
at least?
turtly enough for the turtle club?
Like,
Whatever he said.
who doesn't at least grin when that look? It's got a moment of some smiles, whatever. It is a terrible movie, but listen,
those eyes.
that's the great thing about the art, right? It hits us in different ways, and if you get enjoyment out of it, that's great. And make no apologies
Yeah,
for it.
we all have one.
Exactly.
We all got many.
We all have many.
Yeah.
Employee of the month, I'm looking at you.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
From Luke, TC moving may Tom Cruise moving may hint WB buying Paramount. Tom equals Paramount.
Maybe, but remember, Tom is like one very, very small piece of a giant machine. But
You don't have to
that-
make a short joke, John. We're gonna get canceled, man.
Yeah.
But now I got to regather myself here. It is certainly one of the possibilities. We mentioned it earlier. Like you'd be forgiven for making that assumption that maybe this is just an early sign that Warner Brothers is going to buy Paramount, and they're just like, "Hey, Tom, you might as well just come over now." I mean, not necessarily the case, but it's one of the possibilities. All right, what's next?
From Tim, TIM, expectations for Echo tonight. I'm excited for
I
it.
forgot it was coming out tonight.
I'm pumped.
I'm not going to lie to you. I don't have much expectation for this show.
That's good though, honestly.
No, and it is. And listen, I agree. I went from zero hope for this show because they did such a terrible job with this character in the Hawkeye series. I had zero interest in this show. The trailers have been so good, you at least got me interested. Because, look, I'll call it as I see it. The trailers looked great. So you at least got me interested. But I ain't going to lie and pretend that I think the show's going to be great. I'm going to watch it tonight. We're going to a Laker. We're going to go see Laker and my beloved Toronto Raptors tonight.
Mm-hmm.
But once I get back, I'll watch the 5 episodes. But I'd be lying to you if I said I had a lot of hope for it. But you never know. We'll see. Chris, where's your expectation level right now?
I'm looking forward to it. You know, so many people have talked about how they've gotten to see the first 3 episodes and they're fabulous. Obviously, Disney has had a problem landing the plane, though.
Yeah.
So I'm at least excited for those first 3 episodes and hope that this is the one to kind of break that curse of, and it was a limited series with only 5 episodes and all of them were great and it used the time it needed to. I'm hoping I don't get to that 5th episode and go, well, what the fuck? Where are the next 3?
You know what Disney's doing real well right now? That little
Percy.
Percy Jackson show.
that comes out
That
tonight.
show is delightful.
That show's really good.
I
Really surprised me.
We
so
sat
good.
down for the first episode and Logan just looked at me and went, I hate how invested I am in this.
Yeah.
I want to watch all of it.
Yeah.
It's so
Really into it
good.
now. All right. What's next?
From CR, Gandalf was very unhappy at work yesterday. He couldn't find his staff. Thank you for your money.
Yeah.
Thank you for your
Fool
joke.
of a took. All right. What's next?
What?
From
Why am I jumped on your line? I started reading it.
From Wesley Cunningham, maybe the Cruise WB deal can help an Edge of Tomorrow sequel? Probably not, but no sequel to an action movie that awesome is Criminal. Needs a rewatch.
Who was the studio behind
Let me look it up.
behind Live Die Repeat? I can't remember. I don't know if it was.
I thought that was Universal. Let me look.
It might have been
was.
Universal. So at any rate, then none of that
It
will,
was
will matter.
distributed by Warner Brothers.
Okay.
Was it? But who's the production company?
No.
Because if it was just Tom Cruise's production company and Warner Brothers was the partner distributor,
There's Warner Brothers.
then that, yeah, I mean, that becomes a
Legendary.
possibility. Of course, the thing holding up this movie has never been anything else other than Tom Cruise's, is Doug Liman was the director?
Yeah, Doug Lyman.
Doug Liman and Emily Blunt's schedules. They came this close to doing a sequel. Doug Liman and Tom Cruise called up Emily Blunt. She tells a story. It's a true story. Called her up and said, we got our idea. We're ready to go. Can you be available between this month and this month next year? And Emily Blunt was like, I just signed on to do Mary Poppins. Wah, wah. But she's like, I just signed on to do Mary Poppins. And they've never been able since to make their schedules align. So it's all going to be about their scheduling. All right, what's next?
From Raymond, from Variety, the ratings of your arch enemy, the Golden Globes, is up 50%. Can Joe Coy ask for a raise if they invite him back? More Taylor Swift jokes?
But up 50% from what? That's see that up 50% when they tried to do it in their controversy plagued COVID era, whatever. I mean,
And is that 50%? And I'm not saying this jokingly. Was it because Taylor was on it?
yeah, just the fact that Taylor Swift was going to be there,
Swifties watching it.
which is exactly why they gave her the nomination, which is exactly why the Golden Globes have no relevance. They're completely stupid. But they have always put on a great show. And we talked on this show yesterday where I said, I actually think the Oscars have a couple things show-wise to learn from the Golden Globes. And one of the best things they did, and I don't mean this sarcastically, seriously, they kept that show moving. They understood the reason people tune in and watch the Golden Globes is to see the celebrities and hear the winners announced. So you know what they 100% focused on the Golden Globes? Showing the celebrities and rallying off the announcements of who the winners are. Next category, next category, next category, next category. It was perfect. And it kept the show moving. So even when they had really bad, lame jokes, like from the presenters or from the host, it didn't matter because they kept the show moving so fast. They went, oh, you didn't like that joke? Well, here's who's winning Best Supporting Actress in a TV show. Boom. The Oscars got to learn something from them. Not that the Oscars shouldn't have some pomp and circumstance. They should. But they should cut it way back, get rid of the song presentations, get rid of more of the fluff, and give the people what they're tuning in to watch. And I'm sorry, people are not tuning in to see the announced winner of Best Short Form Documentary. They're not. You can argue all you want. They're not tuning in for that. So I think there are some lessons to learn, and I hope they learn them.
Even in the year, though, where we could have I'm Just Ken and Peaches performed at the Oscars.
1 6-minute medley. They take the 5 nominated songs. Because here's the thing. This is what's always driven me crazy about the best song category. The best song in a movie is the least important thing in a movie. It's a 2-minute part of a movie, whatever. And yet they get 3 minutes for each song to come out and be sung. The actors are way more important. Here are the 5 nominees for Best Lead Actress in a movie. And each one is going to come out and reenact a 4-minute scene from their film.
Nice.
No, but they're way more important than the song is, yet we give more screen time. What's the old parent adage? Kids tell what's important to you by what you spend your time on. Well, that's the same as the Oscars. You're telling the audience what's important, the things you spend your time on. And when you spend more time on best song than best director, you're telling the world your priorities are fucked up. So anyway, it's a long diatribe I could go on there. All right, what's next?
From AL. Do you think if Marvel continues to disappoint, people will eventually abandon it, similar to how they abandoned DC?
Yes, 100%. It's like anything else. Like you continue to thrill an audience, the MCU becomes the biggest, most powerful juggernaut in the history of Hollywood. That's what happens. That's the consequence of constantly putting out banger after banger after banger, where you thrill the audiences, the critics, and the box office, and all that kind of stuff. Success breeds success. Unfortunately, when people go to the theater and are, that was all right, they're a little less inclined to want to go next time. And if they do, and again, you go, oh, that Ant-Man and the Wasp Quantumania wasn't so good. Then they're less likely to go next time. And then you put out your next project. I don't know, Secret Invasion. And people invest their time in that and go, that wasn't so good. You are heading towards things. At some point, you got to turn that thing around.
As long as they stay consistent, that's the reason why at Universal, we continue to ride that Harry Potter ride over and over again. It's the same thing every time, but it's just good every time. So as long as they stay consistent, but they've been dropping way below consistent.
Their quality has not been good. I mean, they've had some things that have been great, but overall, that consistency of greatness is not there anymore. All right, what's next?
From a man, saw the Holdovers last week and damn was not expecting how much I would like it. Felt so sad at the end. Where does it rank in your top films of 2023? Ooh, I watched that last night.
It makes it into my top 10. I never did a top 10 for the year because I never got around, because of my traveling and then I got sick. I never got around to seeing Poor Things. So I just didn't feel like I should put together a top 10 without seeing Poor Things yet. But the Holdovers will be in there. Paul Giamatti, man, every time you start to forget about how great he is, he comes out with a performance like this. It's a powerful movie. I mean, not a real unfortunate ending. But I mean, you feel bad for the main
I
character,
really want
but
to see it.
it's really,
really
good.
good.
It's really great. All right, what's next?
From CR, can you think of a movie that had a great twist at the end and then you felt stupid for not seeing it coming the first time you watched it after a rewatch? The Sixth Sense for me.
A great twist is a twist that when it happens, you go, oh, all the signs were there. I could have figured this out. Twists that I hate, like in murder mysteries or whatever, is when they present a piece of evidence to you as the audience for the first time that it's like, there is no way I ever would have been able to figure out who done it just by watching what the movie presented to me. It's like, well, as it turns out, I went looking through your footlocker and I found the murdered weapon. It's like, well, the audience never knew that. Like great twists, like Sixth Sense. Because when they start going over the movie again, when they make the reveal and they go through the scenes of the movie, you're like, it was all right there. Another M. Night twist for a not so good movie. The one where the people are living in the forest.
Village.
The
The Village.
But I caught that. I caught Sixth Sense when he tried to open the basement door and the desk was in front of it. I'm like, that's just weird. I think he's dead. And then, but the Village one I caught, and I'm like, wait a minute. Is this going to be like taking place now? And did they like redirect airlines or something stupid like that? And they did
Yeah.
redirect airlines. Yeah.
That and Usual Suspects.
That was really good.
Because
Usual
again, and
Suspects
I
is
never,
That
I
you
never
don't-
got
yeah.
it, but when it happened, then you think about the movie and with Kaiser Soze, and then you think about the movie, it's like, you know what? It was right there.
Mm-hmm.
A good twist should make you go, oh my gosh, I could have figured that out. It's a terrible twist when you look at it and go, there's no way anybody could have figured this out. So that's a sign of a good twist.
Yeah.
Also, all the Superman movies. I had no idea Clark Kent was Superman.
Oh, yeah.
He was always wearing the glasses. How am I supposed to know? All right, what's next?
From Andy, we all know Kratos will be played by Pedro Pascal.
Yeah.
Probably.
One of the best lines, I got to give credit where credit's due. There's a couple of really good moments of the Golden Globes, but one of them was Culkin up accepting Best Actor saying, F you, Pedro Pascal.
Suck it, Pedro.
That was really funny
Was he there, Pedro?
Yeah,
Yeah.
he was
Yeah.
nominated
because he was nominated for a bunch of things.
for the same category.
He was there in an arm sling. You
Yeah.
notice that?
Oh, gunslinging.
Maybe do some more. Just
Mando.
got slipped coming out of his
Yeah.
coming out of his shower. But the best moment of the Golden Globes to me was when the two guys from Suits came out and they said, "We finally got to your category. I can't imagine how frustrating it must be to sit there for so long waiting for your show to be acknowledged," which I thought was like one of the banger lines of the night. But anyway, all right, what's next?
From Andy again, Tom Cruise's main chick may be WB, and it's nice that he's having an open relationship with other studios, but I want him to have an orgy with all the studios.
Nobody wants that though. Nobody wants that. Nobody at all. That would just make for a big, big creative mess. All right, what's next?
From Christopher Brickner, it was rumored that Mandalorian Season 4 would be a film. If that happened, I was hoping Jon Favreau would direct, since he has a good directing track record.
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, he's the guy. He's the
guy.
man. Jon Favreau is, and I've always thought if there was anybody who might be able to take over for Kathleen Kennedy, it would be Favreau. Should be the guy to do that. Whether that happens or not, whatever. He's producing this movie. He's directing this movie. I think they have put themselves. Look, can we guarantee that this Mandalorian movie is going to be good? No, we can't. But all you can do right now is position yourself for the best chances at success. And I would say right now they have done exactly that. They have positioned themselves for success. Whether they achieve success, that's something we'll have to evaluate once the movie comes out. But for now, they're at least doing the right things to give themselves the best opportunity for success. And putting Favreau in there as the producer of it and directing it, that was what they needed to do. So we'll see if it works. All right, what's next?
From Ian McAllister, sending in a $20 super chat.
Thank you, Ian.
I agree that the actor for Kratos has to be
probably.
and has to be massive. But in my opinion, when they inevitably bring in Thor, he has to be then larger to show that he is a real threat, like in the game. I'd rather see Triple H as Thor.
I disagree. You know why? Because like one of the first, what was the name of the villain again? at the beginning of the game, the scrawnier one, who ends up being that woman's son, and he's the first one that shows up at Kratos' house, and they go to battle because he can't be killed. Guys in the live chat, what's the
They're
name of the
saying
character?
Balder.
Balder. Yeah.
Which is ironic.
So, did anybody feel that Balder wasn't a threat? Even though he was like physically smaller and all that kind of stuff, you never felt like Balder wasn't a threat. So no, they don't have to have Thor to be even bigger, even more hulking. You don't have to. You want him to be a big physical presence, sure. But he doesn't have to be even bigger, or else you won't feel the threat. Listen, if they can make you feel the threat with Balder, they can make you feel the threat with Thor, I think. All right, what's next?
From JD Solther, setting it also in a $20 super chat.
Thank you, Jay.
Hey, John, question about Superman and him not wearing a mask to hide his identity. I find it hard to believe that no one can figure out that Clark is Superman.
Ray couldn't.
Ray didn't, yeah. Do you think Gunn will have him wear a mask? Any idea or thoughts?
That is part of the age-old tradition of Superman. The glasses. You can't change that. Yeah, and it has been the running joke for 100 years, but it's still the thing. We understand that when Superman is out in the world dressed as Clark Kent and wearing the glasses, people don't know who he is. I know it's ridiculous. Nobody put it better than in Mystery Men. It's like, Lance can't be Captain Amazing. Lance wears glasses. Captain America or Captain Amazing doesn't wear glasses. How could he possibly see? Like, it's just, it's one of the longest running jokes, yes, but it is part of the time-honored tradition of Superman. No, you don't have Superman wear a mask.
Listen,
the glasses will do.
Clark Kent wears glasses just the same way that girls in 90s movies weren't beautiful until the glasses and ponytail came off. And then we were like, what? Rachel Lee Cook, you're hot?
What?
Huh?
The hot, not hot girl.
Yeah, and also, in real life, people also constantly do the like, what? You look so different without glasses. If I don't have my bangs down, people are like, who the fuck are you? People aren't that observant.
All right, what's next?
From Seconds from Disaster, Thunderbolts seems like a super soldier movie. Sentry and Red Hulk both came from the serum. I think Red Hulk will be the true villain. Sentry is needed.
It all depends on what they do with...
Just say yes, John. Just say yes.
Because of what happens in Captain America.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, that's the thing. That's the big problem in the room. It's like, okay, but he's in Captain America, and we just talked about the toy leak yesterday with the Red Hulk and stuff like that, unless that's a post-credit scene.
Did they announce Harrison Ford's in Thunderbolts too?
Yes.
Okay. So
Yep.
there is something there.
As General Thunderbolt Ross. So either in Captain America 4, they're going to fix the Red Hulk problem, or, and here's the problem too. What on earth are the Thunderbolts going to do against a Hulk?
They'll try everything until they
Sentry.
need to go get that boy.
But then the question is, what was the point of the Thunderbolts? If she said by the end of the movie, well, we got to go get Sentry. We can't handle this ourselves. So it's really, I'm very curious to see how they're going to handle this. I really am. All right, what's next?
From CR, have you ever wanted to lean into somebody and whisper, Danny Crane?
Oh my God. It's like, you know, Ron Swanson is one of the greatest television characters, but right up there with him is William Shatner's Danny Crane in Boston Legal. Danny Crane. It's seriously. And I lost track. You know, what's funny is when we think of William Shatner, everybody will always think of Captain Kirk, of course. But by far, like not even close, his most success was playing Denny Crane. Because I think he won like 3 Emmys playing that character. And it's one of the greatest characters, and the dynamic between him and who did the voice of Ultron?
James Spader.
James Spader. The dynamic and chemistry between William Shatner and James Spader is one of the best buddy team-ups in television history. If you guys have never watched that show, you should check it out because he's really great in it. All right, what's next?
From Charles Andre Becerra, sorry if I butchered your name. From MTL Montreal, Quebec, Canada.
Yep.
You wearing the Leafs jersey? I'm wearing mine of the Habs. LOL. Really happy to see you back, John. Having smoked meat sandwich from Schwartz and poutine while watching you guys.
Nice. Okay, so the Habs for Chris and I'm sure many of you who don't know what we're talking about.
I don't
the
know
Habs
American
is
sports.
the
Who the hell are these
nickname
people?
of the legendary hockey team, the Montreal Canadiens. They're also known as the Habs, the HAB. Why? I'm not really sure, to be honest with you. But it's the Habs. And the You can keep your New York Yankees, Boston Red Sox. That's adorable. The true, real greatest rivalry in sports history is the Toronto Maple Leafs and the Montreal Canadiens. Not a lot in recent years, granted, but I mean, it's one of the greatest things. And yeah, go Leafs, go. By all means, it was a very divided house.
Oh,
My
no.
brother, for those who don't know, I have a brother, Robert Campea.
Meyer Burnett?
Robert Campea.
Twist.
Roberto Campea. And for some reason, that little shit grew up in the same house as me, and he grew up as a Montreal Canadiens fan.
That's right, Rob.
Screw that guy.
I like
yeah.
Rob. He's a good dude.
Whatever. And my recent trip back home, I don't know what it is. At some point, my dad turned on the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So
Pat.
I'm sitting there at family dinner.
Oh
my brother's
God,
there.
Pat.
And I brought up something about the Leafs because I was going to the Leafs game. And I just don't care for Leafs anymore. And my brother's like, yeah. I'm like, shut the fuck up, both of you.
Damn, man. How times have changed.
It's a rivalry that divides households. This thing. All right. What's next?
You must have bought Pat some good roast beef or something.
Well, he's the
Put him on
good
his
son.
diet.
He's the one who didn't move to Los Angeles.
Oh, right,
He's the good kid. All right. What's next?
From Andy, one of two. I'd like Zac Efron to play the Air Force pilot superhero Green Lantern Hal Jordan, just so I can say that he's soaring, flying. There's not a star. I'm not going to sing the rest of the song.
But it's right
There's
there.
not a star. There's not a star in heaven that he can't reach. Literally.
Is this a High School Musical
It's High
thing?
School Musical, and we had to do this at Disney World.
That actually
High School
sounded
Musical, the
amazing,
musical.
Chris.
We had to do the whole like wildcats
Wow,
everywhere.
That sounded great.
You sounded like
Thanks.
Tom Hatherford singing.
Yeah, I really pushed at you guys with my arms folded.
Entertainment 320 or whatever. 720.
Demonetized.
All right. What's next?
From Shamrock Vibes. Jonathan, last week you said you like history programs after I mentioned Wolf Hall. You should check out The Hollow Crown, which was a real Game of Thrones.
Yeah, so I've never seen it, but it's these are actually based off histories from Shakespeare. And it kind of follows the British crown. But yeah, I would like to watch that because I love British history as well. So thank you.
My wife has become a Royals fanatic ever since the first season of The Crown came out. Like, Anne recently took a trip to London for the first time simply because she watched The Crown. And she became a major Elizabeth fan. And we've got Elizabeth artwork around the house and stuff like that. So I'm sure she'd probably be interested in something like that.
Yeah, for sure.
Too. All right. What's next?
From J Loco. In my opinion, Kratos should be played by a wrestler or bodybuilder, considering his attire is always shirtless like Drax. As far as the acting, Kratos' mode is serious and stoic. I'm sure that can be taught.
Again, it's not that too often I think people just think, oh, just get that guy because anybody can act. I like seriously, the amount of flagrant disrespect the art and the discipline of acting gets sometimes I think is staggering. But in this circumstance, I really do think this is a very similar situation to Drax the Destroyer in the first Guardians. James Gunn recognized that I only needed an actor that had so much because I could tap into that and accentuate those strengths, and I'll hide all the other weaknesses because that's what this character calls for. That's why I think a character like Kratos could be done that way. But it depends on what they decide their approach is. They may not decide to approach it the way the video game did. They may want to give the character a lot more dialogue and a lot more emotional heavy lifting and stuff like that, in which case a professional wrestler is not the right call, such as Triple H. But if it's a lot of gruntings, if it's a lot of boy, if it's a lot of we must leave, if it's just a lot of that, then yes, in the hands of the right director, you can get more out of somebody like that than, say, other roles. But it all depends on what they decide they're going
It's
for.
going to be Vin Diesel.
Oh, I really don't think so. All right, what's next?
From CR, sending in a $20 super chat.
Thank you, CR. Appreciate that, man.
My favorite episode of The West Wing is when Josh and Toby get left behind by the motorcade, and it's basically
good
planes, trains, and automobiles all the way back to DC.
That's a good episode. Although, I mean, I got to tell you, I tend to do, I was late to the West Wing. I didn't watch it for the first time till about 7 or 8 years ago. But I now do a full rewatch of it every 1 or 2 years. I think I've done a full watch of the series now 3 times. I honestly think it's mandatory viewing. I think everybody should watch.
How many seasons is it?
I want to say What's a presidency? 8. It's 8.
Oh,
it's
because he did 2 terms?
Yeah,
Okay.
2 presidential terms.
Wow.
It
Okay.
starts when he just kind of took over the White House, and it ends with him leaving the White House as the new president comes and moves in. It is Aaron Sorkin's crowning jewel. It is, I just think it's masterful storytelling. Not all seasons are equal, but it's a brilliantly written show where, unlike a lot of stuff in today's society that celebrates stupidity, it actually celebrates intelligence. It celebrates education. It celebrates that it's cool to be smart, and that you can be smart. And I love the show. I really do. I think it's great. All right, what's next?
From Joshua Ramseur, sending also a $20 super chat. Woo!
Thank you, Joshua.
Has anyone seen The Hollywood Reporter titled Echo and What If star Devry Jacobs addressed viral clip that asked if both Maya and Kahori need to exist? That's egregious? If so, then what do you all think?
I think What If was stupid and didn't work, so I don't really care. Although I did think it's funny that one of the key characters was the same name as Anne's best friend, Kaori. I thought, but I think it's who cares. It was What If. It was stupid. It didn't. Who cares? It's not worth talking about. It really. That being said, I think it kind of highlights again the whole issue about What If and what role it plays. Because like a lot of people say, "Oh, I see What If, John. What If was important." Because then in Doctor Strange 2, we got the darker Doctor Strange. Guess what? Nobody had to see What If to understand what was going on in Doctor Strange 2 with the darker Doctor Strange. Didn't matter. Completely irrelevant. It was inconsequential. The new ones are completely inconsequential. You might as well have called What If Season 2, What If the Saga of Captain Carter? Because it was really just all about Captain Carter. But still, I didn't think it was really even... I didn't think it was that good. I thought Season 1 was better.
Dan Salient, thank you for clarifying in the chat here. The egregious is about having 2 native characters in the MCU. If it's egregious, or that was a dumb question.
Why would that be egregious?
Right, like that's stupid. Because should
Well,
we
like
not
only
have,
one can exist.
we should have less white people, dudes, women. Like what? There's doubles of everyone. Oh, I'll get rid of them. It's not Highlander.
There can be only one.
That's
Native
all I know
American.
about Highlander, and that also they're aliens. Right? That's
yeah,
canon.
that clarified.
They're
Part 2
aliens.
really clarifies.
They're aliens. Okay.
You can really start with Part 2.
That's what I was
and move
planning on
forward.
doing. I was just going to start at 2.
Yeah.
And
And
only
move-
watch 2, honestly.
Yeah. Rewatch it.
Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know.
All right.
Did you miss us?
got that settled.
What's next?
We go to not tips. We go to our members.
Members from Eric Blake. Will any of you guys be checking out Jason Statham's movie The Beekeeper this weekend?
You know, it's so funny. Right before the show started, I turned to the guy and said, "Hey, when does The Beekeeper actually come out?"
And then we both laughed.
I was like, I hope that movie comes out soon because I can't wait to stop seeing the damn stupid trailer.
Playing in front of everything. Listen, does this movie look good? No. But does it look like a fun crank kind of Jason Statham movie?
Also, no.
I would say yes. And you know what? The idea of a guy saying, phone scammers taking people for their money, huh? I'm going to kill you all.
It's a matter of national security.
Some about that resonates with me. I like that idea.
You better say, you know what I mean.
It might end up being bad, but I'm looking forward to seeing it. All right, what's next?
From Jai CSC, are there any filmmakers that you had a really bad, that you think had a really bad day at the office? Usually make great movies, but one they made was surprisingly and spectacularly bad.
Yeah, I mean, there's very few that I would say that doesn't apply to. I mean, I can't think of a Scorsese film that I hate.
I didn't like The Irishman.
Yeah, I still like
hate
The
it.
Irishman. I thought I mean, it was also like 45 minutes way too long.
Yeah.
But almost every director's had a bad day.
Tenet.
Yeah,
for
that
Nolan
means
wasn't
Christopher
great.
Nolan had Tenet. I didn't hate Tenet, but I thought that was a bad day at the
There.
office for him.
Yeah.
What's
I'm
that?
sorry, Ray.
No, nothing.
So yeah, I think most of them do. Spielberg, you had the frickin'
The Terminal.
The Terminal. I mean, I know Ray hates when I say that, but
Oh no, it's just not me. You know, wait till you go home.
I know Anne really loves The Terminal too.
I'm not the problem. The problem's at home. You
The
say
problem's
that to
at
the
home.
person at home. You never say this at home. I know you don't.
Well, because it doesn't get brought up at home.
You brought it up right now.
The person asking the question brought
Yeah,
it
no
up.
one's
It
wandering
wasn't
around
me.
their house saying, "What's
Look,
a really bad Spielberg movie, guys?"
Look, I'm gonna start planning terminal DVDs in your house, so when you find them, you'll bring it up. People are like, "Oh, this is a," and then you look at Ann, and she'll be like, "Wonderful, right?"
Yeah,
And
what
you'll be
is
like,
it?
Yeah, wonderful movie.
It's not like I go like, you know, honey,
It's not the worst movie.
this adobo wasn't very good. It reminds me of the disappointment of the terminal. Like, no.
Whoa.
disappointment.
Well, none of Ann's adobo or yours have ever been disappointing.
I know, but come on. Terminal is not the worst. You just make it look like the worst.
No, it's the worst. The worst Spielberg film. Not the worst film, period. I mean, there are definitely tons worse. I just think it's the worst Spielberg one. All right, what's next?
From Jared Vester, chance of seeing the first Deadpool 3 trailer on Valentine's Day and promoted as a romantic comedy.
Was not the first Deadpool trailer dropped on a Valentine's Day?
I feel like it was.
pitched as a rom-com, yeah.
Yeah. It's possible. Listen, the reality is we are getting into an acceptable range of when a trailer
Yeah, we're getting close.
Because when's the movie come out? June? Is it
Supposedly.
June or
I
July?
believe it was June.
June, right?
20. Let me double check.
So that makes it 5 months away. See, I think 5 months,
July 26th.
Oh,
July. Okay, so we're 6 months out.
David's
I
my
think
birthday.
5 months is an acceptable outer ring of when you can start dropping your first trailer. So yeah, I think in the next month or two, we'll see it. And you know what? Valentine's Day might even be a little late, but I could totally see them doing that. That's not a bad thought. All right, what's next?
From Rat GTV Zeus. Glad to see you back and well, my fellow Canuck. What are your thoughts on illegal streaming sites and their impact on streaming numbers and potentially audience numbers at the theaters?
Look,
Illegal streaming.
everybody knows my thoughts on illegal streaming. Piracy is theft. You're stealing. No. You are. So yeah, I don't think much of those things.
Yeah.
All right, what's next?
I steal from legal places now, like Campea Plus.
Yeah.
I've changed my ways.
I steal from legal places.
Somebody's paying for it.
As long as someone's paying for it.
Campea TV. Somebody's paying for it.
Yeah, come on. You have family members. You don't need to go that route anymore. Someone has something that you could use.
That's
As
fair.
long as on the up and up.
That's fair. I'm not paying for Paramount Plus.
There you go.
That's
All right,
not
what's
me.
next?
From Ryan Tribuca. Happy to see Wonka continuing to lead the box office into the
Yeah.
new year.
Yeah.
164 million domestic and approaching the $500 million mark worldwide.
Yeah, so hold on, let me pull this up. Because I looked this up the other day. It had easily crossed 400 million. And now Wonka is sitting at 467 million. It's in number one at the box office again. So it'll probably very quietly pass the $500 million mark for a movie that cost 125 to make. It's now a hit. It's now a bona fide hit for the studio, and good on them, because it's a delightful movie. I really quite enjoyed this film. I'm glad it's doing so well. All right, what's next?
From Dan. Glad you're feeling better, John. Glad it seems you liked Wheel of Time Season 2. Any thoughts going into the confirmed third season?
No, I mean, I didn't love season one. Like, season one to me was just good enough to keep watching. You know what I mean? Like, I'd watch the episodes like, okay, nothing's blown me away, but, you know, it's good enough. I'll watch the next episode and blah, blah. So I was very late to watching season two because I never felt it all that important to watch season two because I didn't love the first season. But being sick this past week, I had time to watch a lot of stuff. So I decided, you know what? Time to try season two. And again, I didn't love it, but it was pretty strong. It was pretty good. It was definitely an improvement over the first season. I'm still not going to say I loved it like I'm loving Monarch or I'm loving Reacher, but it was definitely a step up. And I actually found myself, instead of going, it was good enough to watch the next episode, it was like, oh, I'm looking forward to watching the next episode. Like, so it was a step up. I liked it. All right, what's next?
From Jesse Has a Turtle. What's the gain in being a director if the actors get paid more and spend less time with the project?
It's the same. That's life, my friend.
Yeah, not every director is going to be an actor, so it's not like they just go and do it.
It's the same thing in life. It's like, what's the point in being a coach if half your players make more money than you do? and don't spend nearly as much time preparing for a game as you do. Well, that's the role, man. So you get paid. The point in being a director is you get to do what you love for a living, and you still get paid quite handsomely. Maybe not as much as the actors in your movie, but you're getting paid handsomely to do what you love to do. Not many people on the planet Earth get to say that. So yeah, just because other people make more money doesn't take away from what you're doing. All right, guys. And that'll do it for today's installment of the Jon Campea Show podcast. Thank you so much for being here and making the show part of your day. Big special thank you to all you guys who sent in those topics and questions. Number one, because you gave us great fun things to talk about. But number two, you supported this channel as you did it. And all of us involved with the show, thank you guys so very much for your support. Make sure you guys come on back and join us again for tomorrow's episode of the Jon Campea Show. In the meantime, I want to thank the people in the room with me. We got Ray Ora.
See you later.
Jonathan Voico.
See ya.
Chris Carr.
Bye, everybody.
My name's Jon Campea. And until next time, my friends, go Leafs, go.
Terminal.